me kick off recording and then, yeah, go for it. Go ahead and share your screen. Let's take a look.
There we go. There we go. This.
Got quite a few tabs open there.
I know it's I've never used to be like that, and it's going crazy. I'm gonna close a few in a second. It's like every time I do something, I'm like I keep closing it and opening it back just to make sure that it's showing what it's supposed to be showing. And I feel like I'm just
I'm just busting on you. It's all right. As long as the computer's keeping up, it's all that really matters.
It's not really keeping up, but yeah. So here, you see, I can't position it like, you get what I'm saying? Like,
yeah, so the first thing I notice is your weather app on mine. This section of the screen should come all the way down to here. So that's just having a div tag that's closing a little too early. But we can definitely work on getting these kind of positioned over here if you want.
should I have a div tag?
Yeah, so
this one.
Oh, maybe not. Your section goes all the way down to the bottom. How did you add the background? Did you add the background to the H3 or did you add it to the section?
Oh, I didn't add the background yet.
I'm pretty sure you've got a background going on your H3, but not on your section.
Oh, hold on. I do. Where did I put it? I had it on.
Oh no, you've got it right, because it's actually the project down here, right? You've got your background color, your padding. Okay, so that actually is in the right spot. Go back to your HTML for me.
Not other one.
On the weather.html page, right? Go back to your code. Instead of being in index, switch it over to weather. All right, now that's going to bug me. I don't see anything wrong. Maybe I see something wrong. Row call. You close out. You've got your H3. No, so let me just take remote control. The problem that I'm seeing is if you okay that.
Oh yeah, sorry.
No problem. If you look at, why is it not letting me? Okay, I'll just do it this way. If you look at mine. Okay, Zoom is being a pain in my butt and not letting me type anything. Let me.
Should I restart my computer? Maybe it's slowing.
No, oh, there we go. Okay. So if you look at my weather section, you see how I've got the whole thing in blue, including the image. What I'm worried about on yours is you've got portfolio going on up here, but then the image and the arrow buttons aren't in the right place.
Hold on. Yeah.
So let's just confirm if I stop this and restart it. I just want to make sure we're on the right server. Okay, and we are, but you still got the problem of that background isn't getting applied right. And so the first thing I notice is your ID applying that background doesn't appear in this section. So if we look at our style.css, you've got this project here and all of this lovely styling, but you never use this ID.
Oh.
So if we go back to your weather.html and we add the ID on here of project, now when we come over, everything is styled the way we want it to. So that's the first thing. The second thing is your arrows, right? You said you wanted to get your arrows centered. So just give me 1 second. I want to pull up my code to see how I did that, just for reference quickly. Okay, I did that differently. Sorry, give me one more second. I just have to pull up. Okay, so for that one, all I did, you have your arrow back here, which is fine. The only thing, you've got your two spans. All we need to do here is add a text dash center.
Really? You always some shit stuff. I hate that shit. Okay. All right. Thank you.
Because, and let me touch on that for why it's that simple. Because we're using span tags here, those are inline elements.
Okay.
So because they're inlined, we can treat them like text and center them. If they weren't, we would totally have to d-flex that and then align dash items dash center.
So when I did that, what happened was they went from here to here.
Yeah, and so that's because we're using span tags, that's why we can get away with a text dash center.
Okay, that's nice to know. Thank you so much, because it wrapped my brain for 5 hours last night.
No problem.
Thank you. I'm so annoyed. Just simple. All right, thank you.
No problem. Any other questions? Christy, I'm saving your W3-1 in case we have any downtime, and then I will circle back to that. How are we feeling on the portfolio site? We feeling like we're making progress? We're feeling like we're understanding why things are working the way they are?
Yesterday, to a degree. So last night, so there was something that I wasn't doing. It's like something missing. And so even with having your code, I've sat here for hours after class, just trying to go back, look at what I did, and then look at what you did. So like even having your code, it wasn't like I could cheat, so to speak, because I had already typed up a whole bunch of stuff and it was like little stuff. And so it was really racking my brain. So I got through what I needed to get through, but it took me a while because I had to like sit here and like look with the two screens, like look at this and look at this and go back and forth. But it was like little stuff. So it was the I'm trying to remember where it was. Oh, it was the first name, last name. So I didn't have enough divs. I guess I was like, I don't know what I was thinking, but just like the call six, and then inside of that. So what it was inside of the second call six, I needed to put call six again, but I thought because I had call six and call six that so all my stuff was on the left-hand side and I couldn't figure out no matter how much I kept, and I was moving stuff around and stuff was like landing in different places. It was driving me bananas, but I got it.
So one thing I will say is, though the little things that I do, right, of like, okay, let me put in my div call six, my call six, and instead of going right to the input tag, I'm going to put the number 1 and the number 2 in, right? And then I go back and I see where those are at. And that seems like such a trivial step. But when I do that, if the 1 and 2 aren't lining up, it's like, all right, I know my input tag didn't break it because I didn't even do an input tag yet. Let me go back in and figure where that is, right? But sometimes you need to take it a step further back and not look at it of, how is my code different than Max's code? Sometimes you've got to take it a step back and going, all right, let me look at my outline. Is my outline right? Do I have that breaking up? Because it's so easy to get lost between your rows and your columns there. But that grid system is what really opens you up and allows you to get things laid out the way you want. And so it's tough because sometimes developers look at something and they go, well, I've got a 6 here, and then I've got a 3 and a 3 that are making up, the rest of the 12. But because I have other 6s beneath it, that's going to cause problems. And so getting in that mindset, and sometimes you're like, sometimes you get to that point and you're like, I don't know, I can't figure it out. It's not working. I know it's me. I know it's not the computer, but at the same time, I just can't figure it out. And at that point, you take a step away from the code, you go file print on my version, you go out, you pull out your Sharpies and you draw boxes around it, right? And drawing boxes and then go, wait, this is a row. Row gets the blue marker. Okay, now, all right, this is a column. Columns get the red marker. And then all of a sudden you go, whoa. I had to pick up the red marker. If I picked up the red marker, that means I'm missing a row, right? Or a column or whatever you do. And so that sometimes is the breakthrough, because you do get to the point where you make that mistake so many times that when you make that mistake another time and everything's over on the left instead of over on the right, you immediately go to that's a row column or that's a column problem, and I know how to go out and find it. So yeah, I was just gonna say,
it was a div because I had the 1 and the 2. So after I did call 1, call 2, and then when it was time, I was able to do what I needed to do on the left, but then I needed to add more divs, and everything that I needed to do on the right-hand side needed to be inside of another div. I thought I could just put it all together.
Yep.
And then when the first name and last name was on top of each other, but it was on the right-hand side, I did something to make it all go to the left-hand side, because what I was doing, I was taking stuff away instead of adding more divs and coming down with the divs. So it was because I had the 1 and the 2 as like placeholders. Yeah, it was not enough divs, as if I didn't know that we need. But it was like when I finally got done, I'm like, that was a lot of divs. I just maybe didn't think that it required that many divs, but it did. So
it does. Yep. And I think the good news there is, like, you see when you share your screen with me and I can fix it in 30 seconds, and you're like, I've been staring at this for 4 hours. How can you possibly do it in 30 seconds? The answer to that is just practice. I'm not superhuman, and I can prove that because Ariel can do it and Caitlin can do it, and they are graduates of the program, right? It just comes down to a matter of practice. And that practice is what will unlock it. And that practice will get you to the point that in 5 years from now, when you're mentoring 4 junior devs at your job and they're all struggling on the same HTML, you're going to click and it's going to be like, no, you're clearly missing the closing div tag. Why don't you get this? Or, like, you're missing a div right here. You're clearly, and so taking that step back and going, when you do have that breakthrough moment of saying, like, why did that div matter so much? Because it's so easy to get frustrated at that point and go, I can't believe all it was 1 extra div. But then going back over that div and saying, why did that div matter so much to the computer? Why did that lay out differently? And when you get that, that is when you are a step closer to realizing, I'm not going to make this mistake again.
That was why I asked about, because before I went to your code, I tried to go and see if I could find out what I was doing wrong without doing that. And so when I went on the W3 and I was like, that was making me more confused. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna have to break down and go look at the code. And when I did, even with looking at it, it still took me some time to get it to where I needed it to be, because I had put so much stuff and moved so much stuff around. I had to put stuff back. And so that's why I asked the question that I asked, was because I was like, I'm thinking maybe I wasn't looking correctly, or
Unfortunately, I don't think that's the case. So I think that, oh, let me take that back just a little bit. Sometimes that is the case with Bootstrap, right? So when I go to getbootstrap.com and I'm looking at something like a nav bar, it is very easy to be in something like this and saying, hey, I'm clicking on the drop down. This drop down is working here. But when I click on my drop down, links show up over here instead. At that point, you can go in line by line on the example code and then go, oh, this UL doesn't actually go in the drop down A tag. It goes outside of it. That's what's causing it to break, right? At that point, doing that at the Bootstrap level, totally feasible, totally something that I could see you doing. W3 isn't going to help you, unfortunately, with the layout of everything. What W3 is going to help you with is, how do I know that I'm supposed to use type equals text? Right. And so at that point, you can go, all right, I know it's an input tag. I knew Max used an input tag, but I can't remember how he got it to do something. Right. So that's when you go to the W3 and go, oh, look, the type equals text. That's the part that I was missing. Or, how do I get it? You know, his looks like a checkbox. How do I get mine to look like a checkbox? So W3 isn't going to help you really with the implementation of how do I get that in the project. What it's going to help you with is, I know he used something equals text, but I can't remember what that was. Was it format equals text? Was it, you know, and that's when W3 is going to help you out and coming into this type and saying, oh, it was type equals text. That's what's going to get me to get going there.
So you just answered my question, because then this explains why this didn't make sense to me. And had I gone to Bootstrap, what is that? What was it? So it was not the text area, but it was
the
text,
nav bar.
Input text. No, it's input text.
Input type equals text.
Right. So if I had seen that in Bootstrap as like what you did with the nav bar, it would have shown me that I needed a div here and this and this. So like all like where you have like the A, or this is where it was, I was missing. I had the lines, I had the text area and all that stuff. I didn't have enough divs.
Yep.
For like the div class row, then another div, then first name, like there was a div, then the first name, then another div, then the last name, then a div, then the text area, then another div, then the button, then a div. So I was trying to put everything inside of one div. So that's where I was all wrong.
The other thing I think is important is to not think of them not only as divs, but to think of them more by their class than by the element itself. Right. And so what I mean by that may make no sense, but we've got a div, closing div, opening div, closing div, right? And you're like, well, my brain's never going to remember what the heck all of those divs are, no matter how indented I've got my code and how perfect I have it, right? So the way to think about this instead is, okay, I've got all the way up here at the top, I've got a row. So what is in that row? I don't care how many divs deep we go. What are the two things in that row? Well, my left column and my right column. So thinking about that as, okay, now I've got my left column and my right column. All I care about right now is my left column. What's in my left column? I don't care what's beneath it. I don't care any of that. So I'm going to open up my left column, and that's got the H5 with the text in it. Okay, now I'm done that column. I'm going to open up another column. And the first thing I do is I look in this column and I go, shit, it's broken into 2 columns again. So I can't go in and just do my columns because that breaks my row rule. I can't have columns in columns. I can have columns in rows that are in other columns. And that's the tricky part, right? And you may not have gotten stuck on this row had it come further down. But because it was right at the top, that's when you take your step back and you go, okay, I know I need my inputs in there. Before I need my inputs in there, I need my layout done. And in order to get my layout working in my left and my right column, I need my row. And once you get to that point, now you've got the right number of divs going forward. So sometimes it's better, instead of thinking about them as divs and divs and divs, thinking about them in columns that are in size of rows that are in size of other columns. And that may be the shift, even though, yes, they are divs inside of divs. Thinking about the class may be more beneficial than thinking about the element itself.
Okay.
But I'm glad you got there, right? I think that's probably the most important thing of all of this, is that sometimes when you beat your head against a wall long enough, there is a hole that opens in the wall. And sometimes that experience is all you need to just go, oh, I finally got it. I was missing that div, because now in the future, you're not going to miss that div again.
Right, because the div class column 6 was inside of the div class column 6, the second div class column 6. And I wasn't.
You didn't have the
that.
div row in there. Yep.
Right.
And you heard me say that yesterday, of you don't put a
I had
column in a
notes. I
column.
wrote stuff down on a piece of paper. So I had the notes and I had all kinds of stuff going on and still was sitting here confused.
But the pain of having to fix that is not, that pain is exactly what's going to cement into your brain of, I never use a column in a column. Doesn't matter if I said it or not. Doesn't matter if you wrote it down or not. The pain of having to fix it is what is going to teach you that lesson.
I hope so.
Any other questions? You know, office hours are completely open. So whatever you want to talk about, I'm happy to ramble on and on.
I found another cool animation.
Oh, yeah? You want to share?
Yeah. I said, I wonder if I could do a typewriter animation.
Oh,
Yeah. Let's see. Hold on. The VS Code open yet. Share my screen. And let's see. I don't think that's it. 1 second.
Oh, he's finding it. I was on Facebook and the Netflix in just popped up. I've never seen a Netflix in on Facebook. So I screenshot it and I'm gonna try to see if I can get it and use it as an image. I saved it in my somewhere, but I've never seen a Netflix in ever anywhere, just by itself. And it popped up on Facebook. I was like, the eyes are watching.
very cool animation, Larry. And I love the cursor that you added too. If you want to share your CSS and how you pull that off.
Yep. So of course I Googled it, but let's see.
I would say 99% of my code starts with, well, of course I Googled it.
So there's 2 keyframe animations. There's one for the typing and there's one for the blinking. And the trick was to give the container, for lack of a better word, that was around my I am Larry Goodman, give it a width of 0, and then to make the overflow hidden so that you can't see them until the animation runs. And then over time, the width went from 0 to 100. And the cursor is a border on the right-hand side that went from, it goes from transparent to the other color infinite amount of times. And there's a step process too. So it basically 16 steps to the end, if I'm not mistaken. I forgot exactly how that works. But then I found out what the rim was for too. It's a relative font size. So it's relative to the font size of the HTML tag. So
Very cool.
yeah, so this was the code for the blinking and the setting it up for the blinking and the typing.
Very nice effect, and great combination too of all of that.
Thank you.
And
Yeah, that's really cool. And steps makes the animation like jump rather than go continuous.
And you can, if you have more text, you can increase the amount of steps. And if you have less text, you can shorten them down. So.
And
Cool.
Doug,
Can you
that
play- can you-
also
can you-
answers your question of how do I use two animations at once? I thought my initial answer was you can't, because that's what Google told me. But
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I got lied to. Larry is using both the typing and the blink animation that he created there. So I think I was, or maybe the answer is that you can't run both animations at the same time. Because I think what's happening there is the typing animation plays out and then it goes on to the blinking animation. But I could be wrong about that.
Can you play it again, Larry?
Yes. Where we go. Here we go. My text looks so much smaller on this computer because it looked big. It looks bigger on my iMac. It's driving me crazy.
I can't tell if it's blinking. No, it does look like it's blinking as it types out. So I do think it is running both animations there.
I can't tell if it's blinking while it's running. It does look for like part of it is blinking, but I can't tell.
And are there 16 letters, 16 characters? Is that why
I
it's
believe that's why I
16?
picked 16. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Yeah, that's why I picked 16 because it only had 16 letters.
Very cool effect.
It didn't have to be 16. I
Yeah,
could have.
very.
So it used to be, just to give you a little, the old man in the room, so to speak, of it used to be that the only way you could animate any of your web content was with JavaScript. And while there was nothing wrong with that, JavaScript was not meant to be an animation language. It was really meant to be like an event language and making the web more interactive. And so CSS3, I believe, was the first one that introduced keyframing and animation. And really what that allowed the browser to do is take over and say, hey, because this is an animation, we should be doing this kind of in the rendering engine of actually making those pixels show up and in the right color and all of that stuff, as opposed to JavaScript, which is really meant to be controlling the data and not controlling the layout and the styling and all of that. So you guys have now been exposed. Well, Larry has now gone way past my understanding of CSS animations. The only time I've ever used CSS animations is to do a fade in and fade out, and anything more than that, I go out and I find an animation library and I go, great, now this is animated in. So I think it's I don't want to call it the new frontier because CSS has been out, CSS3 has been out for a while. But when you do complete a page, it is certainly nice to add in those little animations, even to the point of when you're working with a menu bar, right? And you click on something and a drop down appears. It would certainly be nicer to the end user if that drop down kind of appeared as if it were like wiping down instead of, just appearing when you click on it. So little things that CSS3 animations have opened up for the industry, which is great.
I have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead.
It doesn't necessarily have to do with code, but so I have a display and it's a VGA display. Like I was using my iPad, but it just doesn't stay on. Like after 5 minutes, it closes out. I'm just trying to figure out how can I make the VGA like work with this.
Yep.
Until I can get another display.
Yeah, so is it just an adapter issue of like you just can't plug it in, or is it a software issue? Where are you at?
So like I have a regular desktop, and the only other plug besides the power plug is the VGA plug.
Okay.
And I couldn't find online, like I was doing the research, I couldn't figure out which one would go with it or how it would work, or if I just need a new one altogether. But I need
Yeah.
something now.
So I will Slack you two different options. The trick is USB-C to VGA is what you're looking for.
Mhm.
But I will send you two different options. And also completely okay to use the stipend on this.
All right. Thank you.
No problem.
If I wanted to book like a one-on-one for like sometime this weekend, do you have availability for that, or would I have to wait until next week?
I do. My Saturday, I believe, is either almost completely booked or completely booked, but I do have hours available on Sunday. The link is in Canvas under the general
Excellent.
links up at the top. Yeah, the one-on-one. And that should have availability on Sunday. If you find that it doesn't for any reason, let me know and I can adjust.
Okay, thank you so much.
No problem. Yeah, my calendar blocks out 14 hours before scheduling, which seems like a really weird time, but I've also made the mistake of not blocking it out and then someone being like, well, I scheduled with you. Where are you? I'm like, you scheduled with me 3 minutes ago. I didn't look at my calendar in the past 3 minutes, you know? So that's why I have it blocked out. But if at any time you don't see availability that you need, it's always worth shooting me a Slack message, because chances are I can move something around or you know, schedule something outside of Calendly. But yeah, there should be time on Sunday. And if that doesn't work for you, let me know and we can make Saturday work.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Yeah, I work all kinds of weird hours. Obviously, 5:30 to 8:30 is outside of normal class hours, but I find ways to make it work for students all the time. So if the availability isn't there, just let me know, and that goes for everyone. We'll find a way to get you slotted in. Other questions?
Well, I guess I could like, I don't know, because I don't have the other monitors really bothering me, but yeah, so I don't know. I just show my screen, and I'm not working on the portfolio. I'm working on something way before, so maybe you can help me with that.
Sure, yeah, not a problem.
Let's see. So I'm working on my weather.
Okay.
I don't really have a question. I just, trying to fill up the last little bit of time. I just show you what it looks like.
Sure.
This is how far that I got.
You might have to stop your screen share and restart it, because it's only sharing the VS Code window.
Okay. Let me share screen and then desktop. Yeah. You can see the screen now.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so here's my VS Code
Okay.
for weather.
Okay.
And then this is what it looks like. Where'd it go? I'll just oh, here it is. So this is how far I got by myself.
Cool. So you've got, the only issue that I see, your entire forecast row looks correct. I think the only thing is the details is supposed to be inside of that blue box over on the left. And then I think location is actually correct. So I think your only problem is that details, whatever div that's in, is actually supposed to be in the col 2, not in the col 3.
Okay, sorry. Okay, 1 second, please.
Oh, careful. You're inside your closing div tag. You want to be outside of that. Oh, just take out the opening arrow on 28 before the D.
Oh, okay.
There you go. And then you can remove the word details from underneath. And I think that's the way it's supposed to be. So is the row system making sense? Like it all adding up to 12 and spacing things out evenly and all of that?
Yes, I understand that, but I think it's a little bit different. Like I don't know. I still got a lot of work to go back and like re-watch and re-understand like the basics again. And I've been trying to do that. So I remember I told you in the beginning, I like actually like deleted most of my code, and I actually really deleted it. So I had to go back, and now this is where I'm at.
Gotcha.
But, yeah, I haven't tried to like copy anything, so that's
Good. Yeah, I mean, the good news is that you're doing it in the right order, right? Which seems like so insignificant, right? Like, well, if I get there, I get there. Who matters? You know, who cares what the order actually is? But I think the thing that I'm seeing in there is that like you're going through and you're building it in the order that I build things, right? Which is like, all right, get our layout done, and then get the placeholder in, and then get the actual elements in, and then style column by column. And so the good news there is that, and that's not insignificant either. Like getting that order down is important. So I'm glad to see you going through the steps in the same way that I do them.
Yeah, like some of them are done, but like I didn't realize like that we were like taking some of the code and like putting it in other folders. Like I realized that later on, but when I was going back, I was like trying to work on other things and it just wasn't matching up. And I'm like, is this my code for this? And it wasn't labeled. So I was just trying to like figure out which code went to which. So that took a lot of time to like decipher. But now I have everything like organized and labeled so I can know which code is what.
Awesome. Ariel is actually the master of organization and has never once created duplicates and gotten lost in what version of the code she was working on.
I'm not allowed legally to flip you off, but if I was, this would be the time I would do it. You guys, you don't understand how many like capstone final front end, capstone final front end. Don't let Max check this file. Don't let Nathan check this file. It keeps going on. I will admit I cleaned up my desktop last week. But I also will admit there's like 17 final capstone files that I refuse to delete because I don't know what's on GitHub and what isn't. So also when you guys get to GitHub, please put everything on GitHub, like everything. Just do it. Just that way when Max and Nathan go through it and they go, which one's your actual final one? You're like, check the dates on GitHub.
Good advice.
You guys, you know, the whole like W4 D4 system, like it just seems so obvious, but in cohort 2 we did not lock into that, and so there would be times where we're like, we're on week 16 but we're in the second week of React, and then oh, but did we start this code last week? And oh right, but we're in the second week of React, but it's the 16th week of the program. So does that mean my code is over here? And so that is why like it seems so apparent now, but I'm like, there are no longer multi-week modules. There are some weeks that we will be covering React over several weeks, but it's going to be week 14, 15, and 16, or whatever the actual week numbers are, right? And so it seems so apparent and so easy to do it that way. But then when you get into your actual files and you realize you're working on the previous day's code, or you want to make another copy of it, or so that's why whenever I share my screen, I'm not just like, here's the code. I'm like, hey, let's go into Finder. Let's open the right folder. Let's make sure we move things over, right? Like, let's do that whole flow right there. And so the good news is that you guys will be going over GitHub and Git in week 6, which is all about managing your code and having versions of it and committing it and backing it up, and all of that is coming. And Nathan is the perfect person to talk about file management and source code control and all of that good stuff. So you're not off the hook yet, but I do think we've set you up hopefully in a good pace for, you know, the week code and the day code and all of that good stuff.
Okay, I'm gonna show my Netflix too because I have some issues going on with that.
Sure.
Let's see. I think this is one of those things I made like multiple files of as well. Let's see, Netflix. This is not that. I just had it open. That's not it either. All right, let's try this. VS Code. And stop. And go live again. All right.
Oh, wow.
But my buttons are mashing together over here.
Okay.
And at some point, they weren't on a different screen.
I think your problem there is that, is it possible you applied the class for the TVMA accidentally to the more info button?
It's a good question. Is this Netflix? Yeah, oh, this is Netflix. All right. So I have ID for rating. No, okay. You said for the, say that one more time.
I think your rating has the, so you got a call 8 rating TVMA. Where is your more info button?
Right here.
Okay. So that is not the problem. Deflex, line item center. All right, let's take a look at your more info text ID and see what's going on there.
And the CSS.
Yes.
Let's see. And I'm like, am I making too many IDs? Here it is, right?
There you go. Your more info button has a margin left of 95 px.
Oh.
And I think that's what's making it be on top of your other button.
Okay, because yeah. All right, let me take that off for a second and see what that does.
If you just hit Command/, it will comment out that line. And
Save it.
then, yep.
Go back. And why is this on the way? Refresh maybe.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, it's headed in the right direction. Let's take a look at your play button class, or you know what, here, this is going to be quicker. Let me request remote. And I want to play around in your inspect tools and see what's going on. Okay, so this one, get into the button. I'm going to pop this open a little bit, and I'm going to just control minus, command minus. No, that's going to be a pain. Could you, oh, there we go. That did it. Okay, so I want to look at your span, play arrow, play text. You've got that all in a div. In your button itself. Interesting. Then you've got another call 2 down here. And that's all in a row. Okay, so first problem is you've got a 2 and a 2, but look at how big your entire row is. So the issue that you're running into is these columns just aren't big enough for the entire button.
Okay.
So if we make this like a 4 and we make this a 4, a 5. Now all of a sudden you're in business.
Okay.
So let me just go over what I did there one more time. So what I realized is here's your call 2, but you see where that blue area is? That is all the space the call 2 has to take up. And so what's happening is now your other call 2 is starting, and you see that blue area is right where the button is, but that button is right on top of the other button. So what's happening is it's trying to show the whole button, but at the same time, you've got another button starting where the first button didn't have enough space, and that's why it's all overlapped with each other. So the trick to understanding that was I went back up to the row and I said, well, the row has plenty of space. So that means I've got to adjust my columns to just give the button enough room.
Okay. Now, just even though I wouldn't want to do something like that, if I did the overflow hidden, then both buttons would have started where they were supposed to, but they would have been cut off per se.
Correct. Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
And let's see. Okay. And to the space that, let me fix it then. The space that was between them, I was trying to, I think, get rid of some of that extra space. And that's why I did, because I did it on two different screens. On one screen, it looked fine. And then on another screen, it didn't. So I was like, let me move it over. But I think maybe, I don't know what the fix was. Yeah, I'm rambling right now. Where did that go?
You're in the right spot. The col 2 is on 123. Try making that a col 4 or a col 5, maybe. Start with 4. Well, it doesn't matter. Whatever. Easy enough to adjust. And then your other one's actually above that. Nope, nope, nope. Above. Yep, keep going. There you go.
You are good, Max. You are good. All right, now that's still not big enough for the what you call it, but just start. House. That's the, what button is that? Play
That's
button.
the second one, yeah. So make that a col 5, and I think you'll be in good shape.
That's call 6. I think I made the button a little bigger than the other one.
There you go.
All right, so now to get rid of this space here, because that's why I did the negative margin left.
If
I
you
didn't
put,
want all the space between them.
yeah, so your negative margin should work now. The other solution that you could do to that, which is definitely more involved, is not use the grid system at all and then deflex both of the components to get them laying out the way you want.
You said deflex them.
Yes.
Oh, deflex. Yeah, use deflex. Okay.
Yes. Yep. But in this case, if the buttons are looking the way you want them to, you should be able to negative margin them, and that should work. So if you just go back in and comment that line in, I think you're going to be able to close that gap up.
Okay, let's see. Style. And I don't know if 95 was it, but let's see.
Yep.
Command slash save. And that was too close, but it's better. So maybe 90 or
Yep.
85.
Yep, you got it.
Let's try 85 first.
Oh.
Oops. Command Z. 85. And then I know, yeah, that's 85 is good. And then I know the bottom is horrible. I think I tried to put like 12 pictures because I was thinking 12 columns, but that's not feasible.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think, and Netflix kind of gets fancy and makes it so the more you shrink your page, the less number of pictures show up. But if you want to just make it for desktop, I think that's okay.
Okay, let me see when I do this. Because we're not worried about, we're not worried about the responsiveness for this, right?
Not for this one. For the portfolio, we will be, but we'll be covering that on Monday's class.
All right, and once we do that, then we would have to basically go back and apply it to this, because I don't want somebody, a potential employer, looking at that and like, oh, the buttons, it's not responsive. So I'd have to retroactively make this responsive.
That is the very reason we have a future improvement section on the portfolio page. Is so that when you add this to the portfolio page, you would be able to say like, you know, oh, I'd love to go back in and make this responsive. And that way, when an employer looks at it and goes, oh God, you know, they can read through the page and go, oh, look, they knew that this was something that they wanted to go back in and improve on.
Okay, thank you.
No problem. Christy, go ahead.
I just have one quick question. I know you said you had somewhere to go.
Not until 6:15. You got me until then.
Okay. Can you see my screen?
I can.
Okay. So I wanted Wayne to see my teacup. Wayne, do you see my teacup? Did he leave?
No, he's here. He's trying to find the unmute button, I think.
You see my
I see you
teacup?
up, Christy.
Okay. So this is just real quick because I just want to know. So like I think that these are too big
Mhm.
and I was playing around with them, but what I want is I want to make these smaller and then I want this space to not be here. Like a
Okay.
little-
So
Or I want it to be like this length, like this to match.
yep.
Does that
So
matter?
what property are you going to use to shrink down the white area inside the box?
Is that padding
Mm-hmm. Padding
okay.
is inside, margin is outside.
outside?
So
Okay,
you want to
and then-
adjust your margin for the button, but you want to adjust your padding inside the boxes.
So I would do the top margin for the send button.
Well, you have to be careful. You have to figure out whether it's the
Or the
text
bottom.
area pushing it down or the send button pushing it up.
Okay. And then, so it would either
So-
be the,
Yeah, so generally
what?
it's better to not use negative margin because you could go to the button and say, well, it's not here, but I'm just going to use negative margin and go up. That's the wrong approach to take. So you want to find out where the margin is, whether it's on the text area or on the button, and then take it out from there.
because this ultimately, I would make this bigger because it's where someone would be typing. So I could add more padding here and it'll make it closer to the button.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, that was all. I wanted Wayne to see my teacup. And then I just wanted to ask about this. I was playing around with it, so I'll play around with this some more. But that was my
Christy, can you go back down to your box, box? And I remember you when you mentioned something about like why do they make text area? I don't know if it means anything, but if you look at the very right corner of the I'm listening box, you can drag that and pull it out more. And you can resize it. So maybe that's why.
It is one of the reasons why, for sure. Yeah.
the
Text-
person that's sending the message can make it bigger.
Correct.
Like how we did when we were contact tracing. Lisa, that's I used to do that.
Yes. Yeah, text areas, you're totally right, Larry. It is a different element because it has different behavior, right? So like you get that scroll bar in there, you won't get a scroll bar in email. If you type in email, that's a longer than that width of that box, it's just going
Right.
to keep on going over to the right. And we call that text wrapping, which means that, hey, when it gets to the end of the line, go ahead and just push it down and make a scroll in there. So there is definitely different behavior between text type, and I'm sorry, an input type text and the text area itself.
Okay. I mean, it looks even and I got it here. So I just didn't, once I got it to where it was, I didn't want to play with it anymore. But I
Yep.
was like this, I just noticed that this space wasn't the even with this, well, the same as this, but I guess because this has to have some room, so maybe I should leave it alone. I was amazed. Look, I clicked on this and then it went to send an email. I was like, okay, this really works. And this really is my email. Like, what is going on?
It's almost like Max knows what he's teaching.
Right.
Almost.
Or Christy learned something new. One of the two. That just made me laugh. So
I got two quick questions.
Yep, go ahead.
See if I can share my screen. So I just need to bring this down some more and have these not so wide.
Okay. Let me guess, you're using no, you're using spans. Well, you're using input type text.
Yeah, and just placeholder like it.
Yeah, so those should be I think I use a class on that called badge, and that comes from Bootstrap. But those should be span tags with the text inside the span. Those shouldn't be inputs.
Span tags. Damn.
So inputs are only for like typing in text, right? And we don't want them to be able to type in the input. So if you just take all of that out and just have the span tag, and then delete that and put HTML inside the span. And then add a class equals badge on them. No, on the span tag itself. Lowercase b.
Did anyone else notice Max get really quiet or just me? Like a mic issue?
Oh, I turned on original sound, and that's what probably dropped the mic down. Testing. Oh, why did it do that? That's so annoying. Warning, I'm coming in probably much louder now. Yeah, you're welcome, Ariel. Really the wake up you wanted on a Friday, isn't it? Well, now I know
only
not
have
to
1
turn
hour.
on original sound.
I only have 1 hour of you tonight. It's not 3, so I'm okay. You can be as loud as you want. I can leave the call after.
Because you got 2 more minutes and you're counting them down, aren't you?
Command S, I want to see how it looks.
That's the last one.
We are going to touch on finishing this page up on Monday, by the way. So
Did something wrong.
It's that little thing behind your CSS.
yep. And then you've got one on Bootstrap as well. And then I did add some background styling, I think, to my badge. But at least you're on the right track in terms of like layout and getting it looking almost right.
That's all you did, and then you just did the background shadow and okay, no
Yep.
worries.
Is that the entire tech stack, or is that just what we've learned so far?
That's what you used in that particular project.
Oh, okay.
So
So that's how you would use that tech stack when you do
Yes.
project?
Yeah. And so
And
the
then-
thinking there is that, like, if you come in as a recruiter, you may be recruiting someone as a full stack developer. And so you go, I don't give a crap about what they did at the beginning of the program. I want to see some of their JavaScript code. So I'm going to go into a project that uses JavaScript, right? And a lot of our students will come out of this and say, all right, great, I learned full stack JavaScript, but Python is the next programming language I want to learn. And so when an employer comes to your site and they go, well, we use Python, they may want to go in and see only your Python project. So that's why we label it that way.
Okay.
My next thing is trying to make it as accurate as possible. How can I bring it on a bit more?
I think
it's the rows and col.
Yep. So I did, if you go back to mine, I can just do a quick outline of what I did. And then switch to my tab. Yeah, so what I did is I made this one row. I made this another row with a col in the middle. And then I made this another row and another col here. So this is really row number 1. This is row 2, and this is 3. And then this is col A and B. And this is col A and B. Does that make sense?
Yes.
That was my light bulb moment. Because I'm not understand, because I was getting confused on how the row and why there was a row and why there was a call and why I couldn't put the row in my call with in the same row. And that's why I was like, let me go back. Let me go way back and start there. But thank you.
Row 1, row 2, row 3.
So 3 rows, 4 columns, all just regular col 6s.
Okay. I'll see if I can tweak it.
Sounds good. Last chance for any columns, or I'm sorry, any questions. My God, it is Friday. I am done.
Take care, everybody.
Have a
Max,
good weekend.
Yeah, go ahead, Doug.
this weekend is due the Netflix and the portfolio site up to the one project page.
You don't even have to finish the whole project page. You just have to get the project page created with like the H3 up at the top that says weather. So you don't have to do the image or the grid rows or everything that Wayne has done is extra. All you need to do is like get the page set up with the nav bar in it, and just the name of the project. And then starting on Monday, we're going to go back through, we're going to finish out the project page. We're going to talk about how to create a reusable page for other projects and getting all of that linked together. And then we're going to go back in and add in responsiveness.
Okay, great. So it's those two assignments.
Correct. Netflix and portfolio.
Got
But
it. Thank you.
portfolio homepage completely done and project page only to the point of having like the structure laid out. Awesome. Any other questions for tonight?
No, enjoy your weekend.
Sounds good. I'll see you guys, some of you guys on one-on-ones if you've scheduled. Otherwise, have an awesome weekend.
Okay, you too.
Night, everyone.